My name is George, and I'm here to bring some very serious information to the wellness community here in the state of Hawaii. Currently, there's a bill called HB2570. If you don't know anything about this completely impacts anybody in the wellness community that provides nutrition advice. And we know that's a very broad spectrum of providers out here. I want to introduce you to Jessica Stam. She lives here in Hawaii. She's here to raise her family. She has a husband that's native Hawaiian. But one of the reasons why she's here is because in the state of Iowa, the same exact bill as HB 2570 was passed. She either had to close down her business or face criminal charges. This bill is being passed state by state. Currently, the bill here in Hawaii is sponsored by Governor Abercrombie. It was sponsored, I guess, in a sense, they say it was part of his governor's package, maybe his promised to-do list, but now you're on that to-do list. So listen to Jessica Stam's story. She's very proactive, she's very well informed, and hopefully this will move you to take some action. This is Jessica Stam.
Well, I had a practice in Iowa after I finished school for about 6 or 7 years. It was a successful practice, and I worked with a healthy population. I wasn't doing disease management or anything like that. It was more people that were already healthy, looking for the next step of eating and lifestyle, things like that. So they would come to me, and we would talk through what their questions were, answering any questions they had about nutrition, things like that. I got a letter in 2007, I believe, from the Iowa Department of Dietitians, I don't even remember, Department of Health, Iowa Department of Health, saying they needed to investigate my practice because someone had written a newspaper article about me saying how much I'd helped them. So there was this article in the paper saying Jessica Stam's really great, blah, blah, blah. And so they sent investigators to my office, with their badges and everything, which to me, I'm talking about food, or things you just buy at a health food store. I'm not doing anything invasive. I had a good talk with the investigators, and I thought everything was going to be fine because in Iowa, the dietetics law is actually a lot more, there are more exemptions there than what's trying to be passed right now. There were like 5 or 6 different exemptions, and I actually fell under 2 of those exemptions in my estimation. So after reading the law there, I thought, oh, I'm fine, I fall right under these. There's going to be no problem. Within a couple of months, I got a cease and desist letter saying if I didn't immediately close my practice, like the day of receiving that letter, I would have to face, criminal action, come before the state attorney, and basically the letter closed with them saying, we advise you to contact your attorney. I mean, the big picture, I believe it's the American Dietetics Association, but the dietitians I've spoken with, they're not trying to put me out of business. They realize there's enough business for all of us, so it's really kind of being this mysterious thing where I've talked to different legislators, I've called their offices, I've called all around as I'm going to all these hearings, and no one will take ownership of the bill except to say, oh, it's part of the governor's package. And even the governor's office is like, well, we can't really tell you who's sponsoring it. But even, I don't think the American Dietetics Association has even actually come up and said, we are sponsoring this bill. So it's really a mysterious thing, and it's really strange. It's like this orphan bill that no one will take ownership of, but it's set to put a lot of people out of business. Well, if a bill if it passed the way that it was written at the last hearing I went to, it would basically shut down anyone who's an unlicensed practitioner. And that term simply just means anyone that's part of a field that does not have licensure in Hawaii. So fields, for example, that do have licensure here are, dietitians. It would be, I believe acupuncturists are licensed here, naturopaths are licensed here. I'm not sure about homeopaths. I don't think health coaches are licensed here. I'm not sure about personal trainers. But there's a whole lot of other people underneath that umbrella that you'd have to check back with your board and say, is my profession licensed? Is that term licensed here in Hawaii? And if it's not, you'd be put out of practice if you were speaking about anything related to dietetics, which right now the definition of dietetics is so broad that, it covers everything from, a person doing a clinical practice, working with patients one-on-one, all the way to a wife telling her husband he needs to eat more fiber, because it's, you're telling an individual things that would help their chemistry. So it would be a pretty impactful thing if it passed the way it's written now. Yeah, I mean, I think it would squash a lot of new businesses before they even start. I mean, for example, mine. I'm just now looking at getting established here, and this law is coming up, and it would really, really affect how I work and what I'm able to do. But not to mention, I mean, there's all kinds of new fields like the health coaching industry where people are hired to help someone one-on-one to, you know, just get healthier, just follow basic principles that all of us really know that we should be doing, but we need the support. That's a whole industry. That would be just squashed immediately because technically that's practicing dietetics without a license. And so it would be subject to, you know, at least closing the business, if not having fines, depending on how the person advertised themselves. I think they absolutely, what you have to do is get involved now, because if the bill passes as it is, there's nothing really that you can do because it's subject to whoever's interpretation of who's enforcing the bill. But right now, while it's still under discussion, I think, you know, contacting your legislators, contacting your representatives, getting on the state capitol website, looking up HB2570, finding out what's the status of the bill, where is it, who can you talk to about how to change the wording so that your profession is included and that there are exemptions included for you. Because really the core of the bill, it's so that dietitians can practice freely and that they can bill insurance, and I think that's great. You know, I want them to be able to do that, but there are just a couple of little points. It's like 98% of the bill is wonderful. 2% of it is enough to shut down a lot of businesses just like mine. And we have to get in there and press on those points and demand that the wording is inclusive enough that it's not going to affect small business here in the islands.